Even though it may look like we do a lot of things, there's actually extreme discipline in each asset class, if that makes sense.
Right.
We know exactly what we're going to do with an infrastructure. Everything has a defined purpose.
All right, Ford Elliott, thanks for having me here in your beautiful office. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Matt.
I'll let you take the intro a little bit, but in some respects, so you have two great brands that you've built over time. Blackstream being a brokerage and then residential real estate sales as well. And then we have Contender Development, which is an absolute mammoth right now. So it'll be good to hear how you built both of those businesses at the same time and then how they evolved too. But Contender, best summary, and again, you can jump in. So residential lot development, hotel development, and then restaurant, and then there's some auto dealerships in there as well, it seems. But $2 billion somewhere in the pipeline in different stages, active development. But do you want to give an intro on? And by the way, congrats on the Developer of the Year for Marriott. That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Matt. Yeah, I mean it's been a fun journey to say the least. Been going at it now, I believe, for close to 18 years. Pretty much got out of college and went to Clemson, studied construction management, and knew I needed to do something in the real estate development arena. Real estate was in my blood, just growing up as a kid. My grandfather and uncle were both phenomenal developers, and my grandfather actually developed Blue Lagoon across from the Miami International Airport. It's a major project. They took it from the ground up and really honestly hit a home run there. And so I got to grow up with a lot of this in my blood and just continually watching their success. I knew at some point that I was going to get into it, but I went to Clemson, studied construction management. I was, more from an education standpoint, kind of heading towards that, construction route.
Yeah.
But I knew it was a good segue into development, so I chose that. And then it was apparent to me in my junior year at Clemson when my college professor told me, "Hey, Ford, I see you more as a real estate development guy than a construction management guy." And I always laugh about that because Professor Schneider, I looked up to a lot. He was very smart. And I told him that summer I was going to go down to Miami. I was working on a high-rise. I was going to be a project manager out in the field for Syntex Construction, which I did it that summer. And I told him, I said, "Listen, I'm going to have to, tell you when I get back whether or not I agree with you. But as of for right now, I'm definitely going into construction." And I spent the summer there managing a union glass company, which was quite challenging, up on the 15th, 16th floor of a building, going back and forth, trying to make sure they're doing a good job. And wow. And I think I just realized at that point Professor Schneider was right. I think real estate development was more for me, and several stories kind of developed it over time that made me realize that was what I was going to be able to do. So I came back and told him, "You're right." And it was actually funny. His exact words were, "Ford, I don't see you as a construction management guy. I see you more like a Donald Trump." And at the time,
it's a nice compliment.
Yeah. And at the time it was like not about politics, nothing like this.
Sure.
Donald Trump was just a phenomenal real estate developer, very well respected. And it was just funny. And I, at that time, I guess I started to agree with him, you know what I mean? And I think that putting deals together has always been my thing, right? Yeah. Putting deals together is what I enjoy. I love the idea of putting a great deal together, and that's what I enjoy.
What year was that? Between junior and senior year, that internship?
Yeah, it was between my junior and senior year, and so yeah, and it wasn't it wasn't news I was expecting. I actually I was very committed to go work for Syntex or go work for Shellco. It happened to me again when I was working for Shellco, and I knew right away that I was going to make a pivot. So I ended up talking to my uncle, who had a real estate development business in Greenville since 1992. When we sold Blue Lagoon, our family ended up opting to buy land up in the Greenville area. And he started this journey up in the Carolinas in 1992, developing real estate. And as I was leaving Clemson, I started working with him in my senior year. I actually moved to downtown Greenville, and I worked with him my first semester there. And then I guess I was doing a good enough job that he ended up saying, "Hey, Ford, do you want to be vice president, be my top guy?" And I wasn't expecting that. I was just doing what I always do, just putting my head down and working.
Right.
And it was a huge honor, and I decided to go work with him. And he always calls it to this day, getting my MBA in real estate, which is very true. My office was directly next to his. He was an extremely seasoned real estate developer, and we did 4 very successful projects together.
Which projects were those?
So we did Cherrydale Crossings, which is out in the Cherrydale area near Furman. I did that project from the ground up with him. It was 26,000 square feet of retail. It's a shopping center. And then there was an out parcel we sold to Bojangles. So it was just a really great project. In fact, it was a real test for us because right as we were breaking ground, the economy was collapsing back in that, I guess it was 09, 08
right.
range. And all the banks were having issues. And the best thing that ever happened to us was our lender required us to be 70% pre-leased before we came out of the ground. So I was able to meet that. I handled the leasing for the project. We got it 70%. Actually, I think we got it maybe closer to 90. And so when we broke ground, we had tenants in place. And so it was a matter of just getting the construction done, getting the tenants open for business. Yeah. And it turned out to be a very great project, still is to this day.
Wow. So at what point did you transition to starting Blackstream on your own and then Contender? So like what is after your uncle's development business, after you leave there, like what sparked the idea, or what is kind of the next step in the story there?
Absolutely. So, we did, like I said, 4 projects together. I helped him get an in-house brokerage component to his company.
Cool.
Okay, so I was doing real estate as well there. I was handling development with him, and then also, just doing leasing and everything else, to kind of, it was very like an incredible background because I really got really well-rounded, right? I got development experience. I got brokerage experience, management experience. I was in charge of all the management. I think we had a portfolio of around 700,000 square feet in Greenville. So it was real fun to handle that as well. So it was very, very good exposure. But the way it happened was after we finished Cherrydale, my uncle decided just to kind of manage on his focus on his current portfolio. And at that point, I was actually asked to stay on, which was I was very appreciative of that. But it was more in a management role for the current portfolio. And I knew at that time I wanted to go out and do new deals, and my uncle understood completely. Right. And it was just a really, really nice mutual parting between me and him. And I consider him one of my best mentors, and very, very, very thankful for everything he did for me. He actually passed not too long ago, and I give a ton of credit to everything that I've become because of Jim Boyette.
Wow. So when you finished there, what was your first step? Was it when you want to kind of start on your own? Was it focusing more on the Blackstream portion, or was it focusing more on residential lot development, or was it both at the same time?
So I always started out with my business 3 different things I was doing, which was brokerage, opened a brokerage company. Mm-hmm. I was doing acquisitions of buildings, and doing development work were my 3 things. And at the time when I started going kind of vertical wasn't a good time, right? It's basically a tough economy. And so we were more focused on rehabbing and, taking existing properties and fixing them up and repurposing them.
What was that? Multifamily? Was that office, retail, single family?
It was a combination of retail, multifamily, some office, and just different stuff.
Yeah. What was the importance to you, do you think, in kind of starting off almost vertically integrated or starting off with these three, what was the importance to you and kind of how you viewed your business, what it was going to be or what you wanted it to be? Like why? Because most guys wouldn't start, three different businesses, but you probably maybe saw it as one. What was the importance to you in kind of focusing on all three?
Yeah, I mean, going back to my background, I feel like, with my construction experience and working with my uncle and the development, I think all these were important to me. It was hard to figure out, which one was the most important. I will say that, my true passion, I think, is development. I mean, if anyone, could ask me what my true passion is, I would say, yeah, putting a deal together is probably my favorite thing. But I wouldn't say I like anything any less. I mean, like sure. I love the idea of what we do at Christie's. I love the idea of what we do with SVN. I absolutely love what we do with Marriott, self-storage, you name it. And it's actually one of the hardest questions I ever get is which one do I love the most? I mean, I love it all. But I think like my true gift is putting deals together, and if that's the gift that was given to me, I think that's the one.
You would go with, yeah.
Yeah. And so I love the idea of putting deals together. At the time, I was also doing brokerage work. I like to think I was considered a pretty decent retail broker in the market. I was working very hard. And it was great to start with all three, honestly, because it was important. And I'm very glad that I was able to do all three. So yeah, I'll never regret the way we started. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So kind of focusing in on one at a time to give a little bit more detail that I think they all need. So for brokerage, you strike an SVN partnership over time, and then on the residential, you get a Christie's partnership too. So what's the evolution of those brands and kind of how did those deals come together? Because it seems like a pivotal part in your story, and it's a big deal. What was the evolution of those businesses?
So it's a great story. I mean, I remember buying this building over off of Brendan Way, and I just bought it as an investment. And anyways, it turns out it had about 5,000 square feet of office space on the second level. Mm-hmm. And I had moved my offices into there. Didn't need that much space at the time. And I guess we've just done a nice job in the market and had dealt with a couple of the SVN brokers from Rock Hill. And they put in a good word for me, and they said that we were the right group to open Greenville. So I got a call from George Slusser and Alex DiMaturco, who Alex DiMaturco is a big part of our company now. And these guys called me and said, hey, we want to talk to you about opening Greenville. And I said, maybe the timing's very good because I just bought this building. I have a lot of office space. And actually, the more I got to know SVN and the principles of SVN, I felt like it really lined up with me. I'm very, very careful with companies. I want to make sure that their core values line up with mine. Mm-hmm. And I felt like they did. Their core values were very good. They were a lot about integrity, treating people the right way, collaboration, all the things that I stand for as well.
Sure.
And so the more I heard their story, the more I felt like it could be part of my story. And it ended up becoming between us and actually a very seasoned brokerage company here in Greenville. And the CEO himself said that he chose us because he liked my story. He liked my business plan. Thought it was a little crazy because, we didn't have quite the track record that everybody else did. At the time, right. We probably had, I want to say 5 or 6 agents at the time. So we were smaller, but he just said, I like your story. I think you're going to do good things. And, hats off to Kevin Maggiacomo, who believed in us and gave us the SVN rights for not only Greenville, but for Columbia, Asheville, and then we ended up working out Charlotte and rights into Charleston.
Wow. In what is kind of average transaction? I mean, the last 2 years a little bit different, but $700 million in deals a year from what I read, or is that including residential too?
Yeah, so that's combined, and we have on Christie's Make It Fast, I have an office in Asheville, Greenville, Hilton Head. And then on the SVN side, we have an office in Greenville, Columbia, Charlotte, with a small office in Charleston. So if you take our annual sales, I think it's in the range of $700 million. I got to add it up, but at some point that was about the figure. It's a great team. It's a team that's really dedicated to, taking care of the client. Very proud of what we built there. Very high level of team members and service, and just really, really humbled to be a part of it.
In looking back on obviously still an ongoing journey, but in looking back on the brokerage businesses, both of those, what do you think was the biggest challenge? It's hard to build any brand, to build any company. What do you think was the hardest part in scaling or growing those businesses, looking back, or maybe biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge, I think, for starting a brokerage company?
Yeah.
It's a great question. I think the biggest challenge probably is, it's a people business, right? You have to have the best people.
Yeah.
And, I'll always say that, the longer you hang around and the more you're in the market, the better you become. And I think that was what made us different. I think it was just one good experience at a time. Our reputation was, honestly impeccable. I still think it is to this day. That's what I pride myself on, is treating people the right way. And I think just one good experience at a time. But at first, there's a lot of agents that don't understand your business model and they don't understand your values, and you have to go out in the marketplace and really earn that. And once you've earned that, I think that there are certain producers and team members that will come to you and want to join your team. So I just think that building that proposition is very difficult, because attracting the best people is not easy to do. But the way I've decided that I was going to do that is just by one good deal at a time, treating people the right way, and offering incredible support to our team members. And I always looked at it like, my job is to help you have every tool that you need to be successful. Yeah. And if we can do that and try to provide the best resources possible, and understand that our role is in support and helping, then we can do a good job. And I think we've proven that that's what makes us a little bit different. But getting the right people is the challenge.
You mentioned it twice. Once when talking about the CEO of SVN, maybe buying into your business model, albeit it was a little crazy, and you mentioned it there too. What was the business model on the brokerage side for growth, or the plan, so to speak? So
at the time, I think I was deciding between, really pushing the development and acquisitions, or should I get into this brokerage business? Yeah. And if it wasn't, I think, for SVN's core values that really attracted me, like I said, and just their proposition of how they did business, I might have steered more towards going towards heavier in development at that moment. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I really felt like it was good for me to, have a company like SVN to align with, and I was very happy I did it. And so it was the idea of moving forward with them and building a brokerage business. And I will say it was very time consuming. I will say I cannot imagine the hours I worked in the beginning, especially. Just it was all in for me. It was a lot of work, and we really organically built that business. And it's not easy to do, but it was fun. It was all about the good people. And I was actually really glad with the way my development business worked out, actually. I'm really glad that I also look at that, and it was just a phenomenal foundation. It was always about one good deal at a time. Mm. Same thing as the brokerage business, treating one good customer at a time. And at first, it was never explosive growth, which I really actually am thankful for, because I was able to lay this foundation that was very, very solid for building upon. Yeah. And then we were able to eventually do what we do now, which is, put deals together at a very high level and a very high rate. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So transitioning to the Contender side, I want to start with an overview. Can you give an overview of what Contender is? We did it at the beginning of the episode a little bit, but in your own words, kind of overview of product type that you work on, where you're at, and then overall kind of active development scope. And then we can go back to what were the earlier deals of those and kind of bring it back to modern. So what is the best summary of Contender?
Yeah, so I've been in real estate development for 18 years, doing all different types of asset classes. But once we've honed in the last, I call it 5 or 6 years with a really disciplined We've, picked a few sectors that we're really enjoying, which is infrastructure, which is the subdivisions communities, hotels. We do hotels with Marriott and Hilton. Self-storage, we do public storage deals. We do restaurants, certain select restaurants. We do apartment deals, neighborhood style. And we do buy automotive dealerships.
So how did you settle on those 5 as opposed to different development asset classes? Like what to you made those important, or how did it organically kind of come to that point?
Yeah, I mean, it's, it's always been for me, like the idea of diversifying is important to me.
Yeah.
I never, just like when I started my business and I did development, I did acquisitions, I did brokerage, I always felt it was important not to be in completely one bucket. Yeah. So on the development side, I don't see it any differently. I know what we're good at, which is being the best partner we can be to, like Marriott, for example, right? I think our recognition we got as Developer of the Year shows that when we get the opportunity to go put a Marriott on the ground, a nice hotel or a beachfront resort, it means a lot to us. It's how we grow our business. So I look at the development a little bit more like aligning with our partners, example, public storage.
Yeah.
And then I look at, how can I be the best partner is the best way to describe it. And as long as I'm doing a good job, whether it's for DR Horton, Lennar, Marriott, public storage, Crystal Lagoons, you name it, then I think I'm probably being a good partner, and probably my business is doing okay.
Yeah.
But that's how I prioritize my business, including, how I treat my capital partners and everything else. Everybody, to me, is how you treat your partners.
One deal at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So getting into the neighborhood development, subdivision, infrastructure, the deals that you guys are working on are quite big, 600 lots, 800 lots, 900 lots, all with national builders. What is the origin of a lot of these deals? Are the national builders finding a track in bringing you guys in to develop? Because I know obviously the marketplace has supported that in some extent. Or are you buying the land on your own and then bringing it to a builder? What is the origin of
I would say every
deals?
deal is very different. I mean, it's just it's a combination of a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'd say the least. But I would say that finding land is something we're good at. Whether it's going to find a beachfront resort style deal for a hotel, or whether it's finding a public storage site, or whether it's finding a land for subdivision. I mean, that is something that there is a lot of talent at Contender for finding deals. And I will say that out of everything that I do, I would say that is probably one of my favorite things to do is to find deals. Yeah, find land, find opportunities. I would say that's definitely a lot of my day.
In one of the articles I read about you, it said right now it may be the article said the top residential lot developer in the Southeast, and the plan is for Contender to be America's #1 lot developer.
Absolutely.
What defines that to you, and kind of what's the plan to do that? Like, what is a growth plan to scaling into new markets? Because it seems like a pretty big hurdle.
Yeah, so it's I will tell anyone that looks at subdivisions or communities, it's a very, very difficult business. Mm-hmm. But I feel like our team has gotten good at it. It's tough, but we're good at it. And, I'm very thankful for my leadership team here at Contender, our capital partners. I couldn't do it without them. We have a lot of expertise in the building. You name it. I've got, just one person after the next I could name is just why we are where we are, all of our team members. But give me a question one
time. What is the growth plan to scaling? And then 2, to dig into what you said, like what makes lot development so difficult?
Yeah, so the growth plan is pretty simple. I mean, it goes back to, again, taking care of our partners, right? So if you're talking about subdivisions right now, you're talking about our builders.
Right.
We have 4 builders right now we're doing work for, and we are expanding on that over time. But Horton, Lennar, Meritage, and NBR.
Mm-hmm.
And so our business plan is about servicing our partners, and we're just going to do everything we can to keep servicing them.
Yeah.
So if they want us to be in a new market, there's a good chance we end up in a new market.
In growth for you, and kind of piggybacking what you said, you spend most time on growth and looking at the map there across the office, heavily dependent on where you can get a good tract of land. So to develop, right, that one of these builders would like to build on. So what to you makes a good deal or a potential community, and like how are you able to scan the country looking for different tracts of land where could be a good development?
Yeah, so far right now, we're very dominant in the Carolina southeastern region.
Yeah.
We want to keep doing what we're best at. I look at growth as you should keep growing where you are best at first, and then when you run out of those opportunities, then you start looking into new markets. For us, we're very heavy in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. But when I'm looking for a good opportunity, I'm looking for something that's very difficult to duplicate. I don't like to look for anything too easy. I like to look for something I think's hard, something that's hard to duplicate. A lot of times, I feel like one of our advantages is just the way we treat communities. It's hard to find, hopefully, a community that's ever been disappointed with Contender.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes us different, is that we don't just come in and we develop and, we leave a community in a position that they're not happy with what was developed. I've never disappointed a community. I never will. It's very important to me. So I look at that too as, again, our partners are where we're developing, mm-hmm. and I look for something that's hard to duplicate.
What do you think defines something being hard to duplicate? Like, what defines the success of a community to you?
Hard to duplicate is basically high barrier to entry. It's a lot of times for me it's assemblage. It's it's a zoning process. It's it could be anything. But it's something that where I feel like when I'm getting into it that that it's not easy to do. If it's easy to do, then it's probably not a deal I want to do, because
that's fair.
Because honestly, I think the deals that are the best are the ones that are difficult.
Yeah, I would agree. One thing, it was on an article on the website, and you mentioned earlier, so the Crystal Lagoons, I think it just got approval in South Carolina from the clip on the article, but can you give an overview of that? Because in the long run, if you guys are able to continuously do these, said you had the plan to do a couple more in the next decade, but how critical that could be in a new community and then making that big barrier to entry too. Yeah,
thanks for asking that question. We're very excited about Crystal Lagoons. We are the master developer for South Carolina, so we're very thankful for that opportunity. I will say that it was a long process to get the approvals here in South Carolina. I had a great team working on that. It was worth every bit of the time that it took to get the approvals with DHEC. And I was very thankful for the process. You had a lot of people not understanding exactly what the Crystal Lagoon is.
Can you explain it for people listening?
Sure. So the Crystal Lagoon is a man-made body of water. That's lagoons will actually say it's the world's finest amenity, the way they describe it, yeah. And I don't disagree with them. I think it's incredible. If you've been to one, it's going to be something you won't forget. It's a beautiful body of water. It's clear. You have sand usually on the just like you would at a beach.
Yeah.
No sharks, hopefully. So that part, a lot of nice things about it. I think it's very family friendly. It's very adult friendly too. It can be a lot of different things, and the process wasn't easy. We had to get DHEC understanding what it was. Essentially, they have a lot of patents and and stuff on the filter system is their big thing. So they've figured out a way to filter water in a way that people don't know how to do it. So that's what you're getting there, and then they give you a lot of flexibility as a developer to do something cool within the parameters, just like any other big brand would do for you.
Right.
And
there's a public and private component to it. It seemed a little bit too. Like if you're building neighborhood on one side, then you can have public access. So it seems like tons of flexibility and usability, so to speak, for the community.
Great question, Matt. I mean, the public and private is one of the things that really interests me, because, as you know, we're a master plan developer for big residential communities, and it's great to be able to have the residents tie into one side of it, but the other side actually ties into our hospitality component, where we do restaurants, hotels, and stuff like that. And it really actually, I think, was a kind of a perfect fit for Contender. You really have this very heavy infrastructure component, but if you look at the other side of our business, we also do hospitality and different things. So I felt like it was kind of like the perfect blend for Contender.
In one of their articles on their website, Crystal Lagoon, it breaks down how impactful it can be for a community, and I think Columbia may be the first market you're doing it in.
Yeah,
but
we're looking at Columbia.
Potentially. How you're almost bringing a beach community, right, but 2 hours less drive to the beach, and how that can redefine master plan communities would be quite impactful, especially for you guys. So it'd be interesting to see how you use that as a tool in developments in the future too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it serves a niche that doesn't exist right now. I think that, if you're looking for, an affordable vacation, it's very hard to find that. Yeah. With green space, amazing facilities, water park, you name it, all the things there. And a lot of times you have to go to, frankly, Cancun, or you might end up going, to the Caribbean to find that experience. And, our goal is to be able to find that right here in the Carolinas. And there's no reason why we can't create a amazing experience for the customer, with everything that we do. And, and even from being a hotel developer, I mean, I've started to realize that, the room rates, on a peak season, the beach can be $800, $900 a night, and, with us being at the lagoon, I think it gives us a real opportunity to create a different type of experience. And it'll be, top first class like we always do, but I think it gives a different opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to give you time to talk about hotel, especially obviously being the recipient of a pretty big award. But what has attracted you to Marriott, and it seems Hilton as well, branded? And then amongst that, it seems like you have your sub-brands that you like to go through. But is there a plan for doing soft branded through those products too in the future?
Yeah, so we got really fortunate to get several beachfront sites. And we're very excited about those projects, but we're excited about every hotel we do. I mean, I can't find one in my portfolio that I don't love.
Yeah.
Otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. I mean, just for different reasons, like we're doing the Element and under construction in, North Charleston right now, across from Topgolf. Yeah. We love the market. We think it's great. Should be a very nice hotel. We just broke ground on our Ormond Beach Residence Inn, right on the ocean. So your toes in the sand. Great location. A lot of growth going on in that market, in our opinion, over the next several years. So, we're very excited about that. But it's, for us, we love to partner with big companies such as Marriott and Hilton. And the reason is they're proven. They know it works. They are very involved in design. Yeah. We love their feedback. We just want to make it better and better, and just be a good partner. And I'm not saying at some point I won't do a boutique hotel. I think it's somewhere in the vision I'm going to do one. But I love the idea of stamping out, and let me use the word stamping out. I love the idea of customizing and working side by side with big companies such as Marriott and Hilton. To get the best product. Not only are they happy, but we're happy. And I think it's just a really big win-win.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You're developing one near me in North Myrtle Beach too, Residence Inn.
Yes.
what has kind of steered your navigational beacon, so to speak, of where to put a new hotel? Like how do you get guided in different Carolina markets? What is the growth plan on the hotel side?
Yeah, so hotel side, again, I think is to be partnering with our, big brands. It definitely changed the landscape after COVID. I mean, I stopped looking so urban, right, with everything going on. And nothing against urban hotels. I think they're phenomenal, but, in the right locations and the right areas with the right growth. But I think that, I went more towards leisure after COVID. I think that the beach is not going out of style anytime soon.
For sure.
Very thankful for these opportunities we have. And I think our strategy is honestly just to be on the best site. Like going back to anything we do. Is it hard to duplicate? Is it hard to do? And I would say everything we're doing is hard to duplicate, hard to do. So that is really again our strategy.
Is management or operating in-house for all the hotels too, or do you guys find operating or management partners in different markets to do the hotels?
So we have operating partners for our hotels, yeah, awesome. And including some of them are actually Marriott managed, which is a big honor for us to have such a great company behind the operations of our hotels as well. But we also have some other vendors that are managers that have been excellent, and we're very happy about our partners.
Transitioning a little bit and kind of slowly wrapping up, but you have 3 different businesses, and I'm sure you could spin it out to more, but at a high level, SVN, Christie's, both Blackstream, and then Contender. Mm-hmm. You spending a ton of time deal making. How do you spend your time throughout the day? How do you prioritize and execute?
Well, I wish I could answer the question. It'd probably take me a long time to answer that one. It's interesting. I mean, I try to do the best job every day, to just put my head down, focus where, the business kind of tells me where it needs me, in my opinion, One minute it might need new deals, and the next minute it might need me to focus on existing business. Getting a deal in the end zone, for example, or whatnot. So I think I let the business guide me. But I'll tell you, wherever the problems are and wherever the opportunities are, that's where I am. And I'm all over it. I don't think there's anything in this business that I don't know something about.
Wow. So
it'd be very difficult to ask me a question of anything I don't know. Even with as many deals as we manage, I pretty much know everything that's going on at any moment.
Wow. On each episode, we'll typically chat through a couple deal stories, but your deals, and we can spin this however you want. This could be lot development, hotel development. This could be anything. Maybe you worked early brokerage deal too. But is there any deal story that comes to mind? You taking pride, as you mentioned a couple times, in your deal making or something you love. What was an impactful deal or a challenging deal, or could have been the best deal you've done or the hardest in looking back on things you've done so far? What do you think was super impactful deal that comes to mind?
One of my favorite deals is still my first hotel project in Asheville, the Town Place Suites. And I'll never forget, I put the site under contract thinking I'd do apartments there. It was a really nice apartment market. Asheville is historically great for housing. And for some reason, we just couldn't get it to pencil. Worked hard on it as apartments and just couldn't get it to work. Later on, ended up canceling the contract, and I always kind of looked back at that site and said, "Oh, I want to do something there," but just was waiting for the right opportunity. And then one day I was in Asheville, and I pulled my car back up to the intersection where that site was, and I looked at it and I said, "That's a hotel site." I'm like, I don't know why I'm not doing hotel here. So I called up Brad Galbraith, who ran the Biltmore Cecil Family's operation. Great guy. I still thank him to this day for what he did for me. And he said, "Hey, Ford, I think you're right. It is a good hotel site." He said, "Glad you finally figured out the best use for it." But he had to get it approved by the Biltmore Cecil family because they have hotels in the market, and So I was waiting for him to kind of tell me whether or not we could move forward. And, and Brad was just such a good guy. I mean, I think anyone that would meet Brad would say just the same thing I would say, just a salt of the earth kind of guy, and gave me really good advice and said, hey, Ford, you're not going to do a full service deal here, just so you know, because that would be a competition to what we have. Mm-hmm. But, a select service deal would be fine. And, he said to me, you can be just as successful with a Cadillac as you can a Ferrari. And his exact words were, middle America is a huge market. And I think that, that kind of always resonated in my head was what he said to me. And I built a business around that. And I think I realized that playing down the middle sometimes is a really good opportunity. As you can see what I'm saying here, middle America is a big market.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and it's a lot about what my business is about.
Well, especially through lot development, obviously bringing great homes, great locations at a good price point too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's something to feel really proud about is, bringing affordable housing. It's hard to define what affordable housing is these days, but honestly, with the way construction pricing is and everything, we're a big part of that. We're trying to control costs, do the best we can to get housing. And as everyone knows, the last several years there's been a deficit, and in some ways many would challenge if that's getting better because zoning is difficult. You have all kinds of problems, trying to get deals through. And so, we're a Contender that takes a lot of pride in providing housing, not through building homes, but through developing lots.
Any other deal in your career that you think was ultimately impactful too, and kind of how you evaluated and built your own philosophy in growing the business or spending time? Any larger lot deal that you did or land acquisition to build residential lots?
Yeah, I mean, I think that our deal in Greer, Brookside Farms, is always a real special deal to me. It's about 600 lots for DR. A lot of seasoned developers looked at it and couldn't figure it out. And somehow we made it work. And, to this day, I think it's one of the best positions in the company. I just think, Greer is, a great market, lots of industry growing out there. Obviously, it's, backbones, BMW and right there. And so, I think that the deal was mainly special just because, so many other groups tried it and they tried to figure it out. And those are really great groups. And I get it. There's going to be a deal that I don't get done.
No doubt. Yeah.
And hats off to those guys because they're very good at what they do. But I was proud of our team for figuring out how to make it work. And I'm very proud of that. I'm really proud of the position just because the amount of challenges that it had, and the ability to bring it to fruition was just really special to me. So it's called Brookside Farms. It's in Greer. The builder is Horton. DR is doing a great job out there. It's got a beautiful amenity, and just the whole community I think is turning out to be real beautiful.
What was the biggest obstacle there that the other developers couldn't kind of get over? Was it a zoning? Was it environmental? Yeah,
I think that it was just the whole entitlement process was a little bit challenging. Yeah. So we were able to get in there and figure out a few things, few ways to do things a little differently and make it work.
How far are you in that project right now? So it's 622 lots. Is it completed or is it beginning phases?
Yeah, so we've sold a lot of lots out there, and we are going into the back phases at this point. Awesome. So it's been very good.
Ford, last couple of questions for you. We chatted about it a handful of times already, but you're focused on so many different things. But what are you specifically focused on forward looking? Like what is the team focused on right now? Maybe across the different businesses, you can answer it kind of however you would like.
Yeah, so as CEO right now, I'm focused on what's best for Contender, right? I constantly think about my company all the time, and that's the hat I wear every day is just Contender hat. What's best for us? What's our next best move? Always trying to be a good partner to our partners, our industry partners, and then after those thought process is always in place. I like to strategize. I I think it's one of my favorite things to do is just think about what's the next move, and it can never be the same every year. It has to be different because there's a lot of things changing in the real estate development business. Or, we also do business acquisitions too and stuff like this. And I'm just trying to always, kind of be out front is the best way to describe it. I like to be ahead of everyone. I always like to be first there.
Yeah.
And I like to be creative, honestly. It's just my favorite thing is to come up with a new idea and see it come to fruition. And I honestly think, it's if you look at our businesses and our lines, they're actually a lot more similarities in them than you might imagine.
Across the different businesses?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's very similar.
Fascinating.
And people at first, they might say, well, hotels, auto, subdivisions, storage. But actually, when I look inside that business, I see a lot of common ground. And, that's just kind of what I've built. So it's, and I've got great partners, can't say enough about my partners and what they've done for the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You kind of dipped into the next question there, but having developed all of these different asset classes, where do you see the future of the company? You talked about that strategy piece. Is there any asset class, market, or service that you don't do or haven't built in or been a part of so far that you would like to in the future, do you think?
Yeah, I always like to think our biggest business is still around the corner.
Yeah.
It's just fun to think like that. And I don't doubt that in some point Contender expands on future lines of business. But I like to. I have a couple partners that keep me very focused. Very thankful for them. And I like sometimes for someone to tell me, hey, let's refocus, let's stay focused. And that's important to me. I think that you have to have discipline. Even if you look at a lot of different, asset classes or different lines, you have to have a discipline within every one of my lines has a very, very, very stringent discipline. Even though it may look like we do a lot of things, there's actually extreme discipline in each asset class, if that makes sense.
Right.
We know exactly what we're going to do with an infrastructure, what makes sense within that line. We know exactly what we're going to do with hotels and what would make sense and what wouldn't. Same for public storage, same for auto business, you name it. Everything has a defined purpose.
Right.
So we're actually very disciplined within those lines. But, you got to leave some creativity on the table too. So we have fun with that as well. But I would say that we're going to keep growing our infrastructure business, our subdivision business exponentially, and then I would say everything else is just as important to us.
Right. Ford, last question for you, and if there's anything we missed about your story, we can wrap up with that too. But you mentioned your uncle earlier, but this business being a heavily relationship business, and there's so much to learn in every deal. But who do you think along the way helped you the most in your career in building these businesses?
Wow, that is a great question. Man, I would have to literally bring out a list of people and just start naming out everybody. You name it, my brother, my dad, my uncles, my mom. But honestly, I'd have to say that, my mom is actually the most in my career. I think that from a young kid, I played tennis, right? And I was, very high level junior. And I still tell people this day, she used to tell me every single day I can do anything in the world I want, anything I put my mind to, anything I could, and it was all tennis related. But to be able to take that vision, you have to, I think, be able to have a lot of vision to do what we're doing. Very thankful for it. But to wake up every day and know that I can do something that's different, that I never wake up feeling like I have any restraints.
Yeah.
Anything. I never think like, the AC hotel I'm doing on Daytona Beach is a very challenging project. I never wake up one day and say I'm not going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get it done. That's the only the only thing in my head is it'll happen. It will get done. And that is how we operate. I mean, it's in that, and I think that's important. I mean, I think if it's easy, if someone tells you no, I mean, and you walk away, right? Like I would have walked away from Brookside. You know what I mean? Because on paper you would say, oh, it's difficult. But I think that you have to trust your gut and be able to move forward. And I think that's what my mom taught me. My mom taught me to think big, and to think and to believe in myself. And that vision, I think you have to be able to see, I always pictured in my life owning an auto deal. That's on my story.
Right.
There's a lot more things in my story that haven't happened yet.
Sure.
And, God willing, I'll be able to do those. But all these things that, I always pictured owning hotels. That was always my vision, Just like I always pictured my office would be off the side of a main, and one of my offices ended up being off the side of interstate. I mean,
right.
To me, you have to have that vision. So for my mom, giving me that confidence that I think, had to be, in some ways created at a young child age, I can't thank her enough.
I love it. In wrapping up, is there anything we missed about any of the brands or the business as a whole that you think would be kind of critical if we overlooked it? Any kind of wrapping up words?
No, other than, I think it's important, to always stay humble. I just always want to give thanks, to my partners, to my family, to my wife. Like everything I do is for my family. I do it for my wife. I do it for my kids. Anytime I ever think it's starting to become about me, I try to redirect myself because honestly, it's not. It's really for my family. Without them, I wouldn't work this hard. I wouldn't want to do what I'm doing. Because honestly, I think that's what makes me happy. It's also giving back to the community any way I can. It could be anything from helping our kids' school with a sponsorship to little league teams or
right.
whatever it is. And those are the things that make me happy. I would say that, in a business that, sometimes, can either make you feel really smart or really dumb.
That's for sure.
I think it's important to stay humble. I think if I could say anything, I can't thank my wife enough for keeping me grounded. When I get too special, she tells me I'm not, in a nice way. I think it's really important because honestly, the second you think you know everything in this business, you need to understand you don't.
For sure.
And you got to learn lessons as you go. And then I think you got to take those lessons and get better and better and better. And I think at that point, you can build a real business.
I love it. I think that's a great place to wrap.
Excellent.
Ford, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.